All
I can't
right.
even see you.
Don't? Well,
Mm-mm.
no, we should be going because this is another episode of the Game Audio Hour. It is. This is episode
Yes.
195 of the Game Audio Hour, a fortnightly podcast where we discuss all things game audio, from creative ideas to the latest techniques, project experiences to audio secrets. Here is where you'll find in depth coverage and opinions related to game audio. And man, it's Monday. How's your Monday going, Chase?
It's pretty smooth so far. Mondays have turned into my Saturdays. So I work over the weekend a little bit, but I take the biggest time to just kind of do whatever I want to do and keep it smooth because from Tuesday forward, it's the train is running.
Nice, nice.
How
Yeah,
about your
my Monday is not Saturday. I wish it was Saturday. I feel like my Saturday has basically become Friday part 2, and then my Sunday has become Monday the origin story. So,
mm,
yeah, it's my work week, my work weekend for my work week.
that's oh man, game audio, freelance stuff, it's typical, sometimes not always the best, but still flexible and good at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, I really try to provide some flexibility for everyone that I'm dealing with. I've got to be flexible so that other people can do what they want to do the things that they don't have to worry about in house. I mean, that's why they work with me, right? Or, not me, but us as game audio people. We can worry about this stuff, and hey, they can get back to their work of the other aspects of the games that they're also really passionate about, and they can
That's
trust.
right.
It's really nice that it is really a nice feeling when it works out really well. It all just results in great relationships all around, and hey, we got cool product coming out. Yeah.
All the way. All the way.
Hmm.
I'm with that.
Although a couple weeks ago, I did tell all of my various clients that I'm gonna take a break for a bit, and not just to take a vacation or something like that, but rather GameSoundCon was happening, and unfortunately, it wasn't happening locally in Los Angeles the way that it has for so many years. That was always an event that I really relished going to.
Yeah,
No, it was all online this time around. Did you partake in the festivities, Chase?
I did. I actually spoke there this year. So it was my first game, SoundCon as a speaker, and also as I attended some talks. But yeah, it was on the other side of the spectrum with that. So it was quite interesting, and I was a little sad. I wanted my first one to be in person, but as climate things have kind of presented themselves, as we know, that was not possible. But I still think it was a very successful Game SoundCon that Brian put on, and everyone else that participated and helped out was just really really good and really fruitful.
Yeah, I really liked it as well. Um, I I got to admit, I was actually really worried about how GameSoundCon would go,
Mm,
just because one, it's not the first time that we've seen some of these conferences transition to an online only format, and some of them have been successful, and others not so much. So I was a little bit worried. But I guess I didn't really need to worry because it seemed like it was pretty fantastic. Not
yeah,
just in terms of, hey, we got all this cool stuff, the content that's there. Um, you know, Brian and the powers that be over there, they reduced the entry into this conference to $25, which is great.
yeah.
And okay, so the value proposition is definitely there. But the thing that I was really surprised by was just how social the whole event was. I was not expecting this thing to be as successful as it was from a social perspective. Did you feel similarly?
I mean, it's game audio, and if you have that, if you lower the barrier to entry just a little bit, slightly or significantly, as such, you pretty much open the floodgates to the entire world of everyone being in game audio to participate. And I think that was the thing that was a big limitation, especially speaking to some of the attendees. They were saying, "This is my first one. I'm in Puerto Rico. I'm in South America. I'm in Portugal." Like I had no, I didn't know about it. Number one, number two. When I found out about it, it was just a no-brainer in terms of just being involved and wow, they were really excited to be a part of that. And it was just more of just bringing, if you just had some people who attended and who had the means to attend all the way in Los Angeles, coming from wherever in the States and sometimes overseas, it's one thing. But to then virtually include everybody from all over into that space, that's really how it kind of comes together. But as we know, game audio is a huge community in itself. Even if you just look on the Twitter and you're seeing people that you normally wouldn't see, on these type of conferences, depending on like where you kind of go, unless you go to like ADC or if you go to GSC, it's the spectrum is varied. So I think I was I think I was surprised by the attendance overall on the talks versus I kind of knew what may happen in terms of like things being social, because we are looking for that social interactivity too right now. We're still work from
Oh, we're
home.
hungry
Most
for
of
it.
us are still, yeah, in self isolations, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a really big deal, and I think I'm very excited and very thankful that it was on that level of interactivity and really good. Did you have some really good conversations?
Yeah, I was actually really surprised by how well the conversations went. I was really pleasantly surprised by just how many different people that I came across this time around, as well as how many of the people that I was already familiar with were there, and how we
Hmm.
had very similar interactions as I was expecting to have if we were doing a more normal conference in an in-person setting. So,
Yeah.
hey, I got to hang out with some people from Brazil, some people who I actually know or at least have talked to via video conferencing, and then a bunch of people who are friends of friends. I got to meet them
Right.
for the first time in a VR format. I was wearing my VR headset and saying, "Hey, what's up?" And it was a really cool thing to do. Um, I'm glad that the VR hardware is a lot more comfortable this time around. It's so I would actually be in that VR headset for an hour, 2 hours at a time, and it was great. But yeah, being able to talk to all these different people in game audio, musicians and sound designers, a couple of people that are like these game generalists that are really into sound, like so many different people. And then also the people that I expect to see, like, oh, hey, there's Amen, and there's John Robert Matz, and there's like, there's Jesse Harlan. There's like all these guys that I know actually really quite well, both in person as well as on the internet. And I was surprised how well they came across. Now, certainly during their various presentations, it was really cool how they did that as well. I really liked the mix of content that they showed, as well as the different approaches that they had to it. The combination of pre-recorded talks and live responses to Q&A, or even live responses in the chat while the actual pre-recorded talk was going on. It was
Right.
really super effective. I feel like, yeah, I said it before, but I think this was a really darn good game SoundCon. Really darn good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm very I'm very thankful to have been a part of this GameSoundCon, especially the first one being virtual, meeting the people across the world, doing the live Q&A like you were speaking of. That was really great. I got people ask me to do my best Sesame Street impressions, things that had no on relations to the actual talk. But like you were saying, like seeing friends in VR. I also had a VR headset, which got quite hot and would almost like kick me out. But then I realized I just kind of like have to keep the charge kind of going. So, but when it was hands free, I was enjoying it, and just speaking to people and across the like the breakouts and follow up questions in VR, and it just being just kind of relaxing and chill. And you and I even ran into each other in the VR space too. I remember.
Yeah,
So
but
it's
we
like the
did. It
same.
was on that basketball court, and
Yeah.
it's kind of funny that there was definitely a part of me that missed the the backdrops that we experienced in past years. Oh yeah, there's the ballroom, and then just go across there, and then hang out and talk to the guys from I don't know ADX as well as the wise guys and all that. So it would be cool if maybe next year the rooms were actually customized to be the
Mm,
the game audio physical spaces that we're actually so familiar with these days. But
the Biltmore Ballroom and everything, huh?
oh man, yeah, maybe you could actually go outside and grab a taco or something.
Grab a taco inside your house and be in the space where the taco would be. And
Yeah,
or-
I really
I,
miss that. Yeah, I actually checked a little bit of your talk. I couldn't attend all of it, honestly, just because everything was scheduled in just a certain way. And I
yeah,
mean, it wasn't just your talk. I mean, so many talks were uh, up against each other. But one of the nice things about this particular online format is that everything is now available to review.
right.
And I think the last I saw from Brian is that everything is going to be available to check out through the end of the year, which is great, or I think sometime early January next year.
Yeah,
Um, and that's really freaking fantastic. I
for the
know
same
some people,
price, right?
huh?
For the same
For the
price,
same
right? At the
price,
entry.
yeah.
Yeah.
So leading up to GameSoundCon, it actually got sold out. And I think a lot of it, yes, it was a digital event, but they still had to make accommodations for how many people could attend these various social spaces in VR and whatnot. So you had to make some concessions, and thus this digital event did sell out. But if you missed out on it, you could check all these sessions that people did. Whether it be Chase or let's see, there's Jesse. There was, um, oh God, all the Riot stuff. I mean, all that stuff on that last day with this sort of deep dive into different aspects of Riot audio production, high level,
Mhm.
low level, digging into some details. That was really good. All of that is now available for the same $25 that you would have paid, earlier on. So that's really great. This is a really, really fantastic resource, and I
Right.
highly encourage people who were, if you weren't able to see any of that live, you're gonna get some great, great knowledge out of this just by checking this out now. So I highly encourage you guys check out this Game SoundCon 2020.
Absolutely. And I just want to confirm, I guess I'm on there right now. And I was told in the chat by someone at the time, the day of, I was checking out Composing Interactive Music Part 2 with Tom Salta.
Oh
And this was
yeah,
one of my favorite ones that I learned a lot from, I would say. It was kind of cool just kind of digging into in between because I've been working with a lot of interactive music this past few like several months actually and learning more like about the Killer Instinct stuff. But I just want to say that I was told that it wasn't going to be available, and it is. I just checked it right now. I'm playing a playback video, and it is available to watch right now. So please, definitely, I just want to put that out there because I was thinking that Tom Salta had also started his master class for what he was saying on the talk, and so they were saying it wasn't. Someone in the chat was saying, I guess that it was maybe his assistant that wasn't going to be available, but I'm confirming now that it is available, and I'm looking at it right now. So, and then I definitely, if you're interested in that type of talk, definitely go ahead and check it out. It's a good watch.
yeah. There's so much stuff on here. You can kind of see some of man, Riot Games, Game Audio Education. I'm just looking. Oh yeah, they do have some of the more ludomusicology type stuff in here too. That's great.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
watch the limitations and functionalities, the game music handbooks, it looks and codes and semiotics and music for video games, which is very interesting approach of such. Not what I expected it to be, but it was interesting to kind of listen to.
yeah, I personally really like hanging out with those guys as well. I think part of it is because it is a little bit of a different world, that more academic perspective on it. But I
Hmm.
really appreciate that perspective and having so many of those people there. I think last year might have been the first year that they had a dedicated track to that ludomusicology, and
Yeah,
getting just sort of thrown into that more academic end of game design and game audio design was really cool. It was really helpful for me as well as a music composer and a sound designer.
right.
And I'm really glad that they maintained that this particular year.
Yeah,
Those guys were great.
likewise.
Um,
And in addition to the game audio studies, they even had Martin Lung, who's
oh
a
yeah, the
phenomenal
pianist. Yeah,
performer, music performer, and had his own talk for video game music performance practice, tempo rubato, and tempo choice, which I found very captivating as well. So that was a really nice find, and good to see that. I've seen Martin Long perform live at what is it? Was it the video game music orchestra, like that one? I forget the. It's been so long since I've seen the concert, but that was my first time seeing him perform, and so it was super awesome to see him have a talk and discuss those type of performance practices.
that's really cool. I actually missed out on that. So I'm looking forward to that. I do actually have some pretty strong opinions on that, but maybe that's exactly what I need. Some
Mm,
interesting perspective. I'm sure he'll provide that.
could do a
Um,
watch party.
yeah. One thing I will say that I was somewhat disappointed by was the fact that, ironically, there was no VR track this year.
Yeah,
I mean, it's really funny considering, yeah, we were all hanging out in VR,
VR.
or at least many of us were. Even if we didn't have the VR headset, we were running a VR application on our computer somewhere in order to be in this social space.
You're right.
But it was, I don't know. I think that there's a lot of space that is still left to be defined, and a lot of interesting ways to explore VR audio and music. And I was actually looking forward to some more content there. But maybe this will be something that further solidifies next year and we'll have a return to the VR track. I'm hoping.
Yeah, I think so. I'm wondering if it was. I'm not sure. I think everything was pretty well explained virtually this year, so I'm not. I'm actually. I don't have any theoretical reasoning of why I may have not been there, especially since GameSoundCon got extended to a third day, which is the first time I think that's ever happened. And so from October 5th to the 7th, which typically it's only 2 days to cram in all the things you want to learn, no matter what track you're going to hop around to. But yeah, the third day it was quite interesting. So I'm a little curious, but I must say though, I hope, and you tell me, that your ears are a lot better, because when we were in Alt Space VR, and since you were wearing the headset like I was, that was some really good ear training to hear all the conversations happen quite rapidly and in a sonorous type of form, because you could hear someone would be in that alt space VR and across the room, and you could hear their conversation clearly. So it's giving you super hearing, but it wasn't really good for your close up conversation. So there was a couple of different tricks you had to do, which is like mute or hop around into a corner space area. Like the 3D spatial audio aspect of that platform to socialize in wasn't the best, but I have to say, wow, the ear training is on point now. How about your ears?
Yeah, I kind of felt that way too. It was like, wow, this 3D audio is effective, but maybe a little too effective for me. Like, and I did find myself having to do that. Like, there was one social space where you could go up these stairs and go up to a second floor. And so I would be
Yeah.
having a conversation up on that second floor. And then I would hear these other things that were happening. Maybe they were actually coming from downstairs. And then I realized some of it was actually happening from upstairs. In other words, there were these people that figured out how to teleport onto the top of the edge of this. I think it's ostensibly a display thing that was there as a backdrop for people on the second floor. So
Yeah.
that was really funny. But yeah, there were some times where I thought, this is really cool. It's kind of like other conversations that I might have at a GameSoundCon or a similar type of conference venue, where okay, I have this conversation in front of me, but I'm also able to pick out these little bits and pieces of conversations that are happening around me, behind me. It was all really
Beneath you.
quite cool.
Yeah.
I
It,
really liked it. But yeah, it did mean that I had to work a little harder than I was originally expecting just to stay in my conversation. Uh, You know, I'm a little bit ADD. It's like, oh, I
yeah,
really want to get in on that. Oh, I heard something really cool there.
I'm with you. Wow. I was thinking, if I was in the Biltmore like, ballroom, I typically, I mean, I have above average hearing, which is was credited by and vindicated by an esthetician. I took an esthetician test,
Oh,
and so I don't think even at the in person level I was hearing those conversations like beneath you, like above you. Like I mean that was wild. That was a really good challenge.
yeah,
I would say it's like mixing with the white noise and the pink noise and the brown noise all at once or something.
it's kind of funny. Oh, where did you do your hearing test? Well, like at
Oh,
House Ear Institute or
I actually it was an ear issue I was having with a very particular one in my right ear, and so there's an ENT in Westlake Village,
oh,
Dr. Andrew McCallion, and I did the test. And at first, when he was treating me, I was saying, well, he was looking at the occupation as as a composer, and I was like, well, I have really good hearing, and I knew this, but like he was like, oh, we'll see. A lot of people say that, so they had to give me a test, and he's like, yeah, well, you weren't lying. As he kept the test coming back,
oh
so
man.
that was a. He doesn't have it anymore, unfortunately, but so I'd be interested to kind of doing it. And it's been quite a few years since then, but yeah,
Hmm. Oh,
pretty
that's
cool.
cool. Yeah, it's been a while since I've done it too. I remember back when I was in college, um, being in the music school, they actually encouraged me to check out some of these places. So there was one
Mm,
in LA called the House Ear Institute that I was able to check out, and we did. It was really cool. Did some tests, and honestly, I'm not exactly a super hearing guy. My ears are merely average, or maybe even a little bit below average. Like there's some issues there. I just have to be aware of it. And I recently did go to an ENT because I found out that I was actually having some serious allergic issues to some materials that were actually um, in my house as I was trying to deal with repairing and refurbishing it. So
oh, that's scary.
yeah, it was a little scary. I was thinking, oh man, what the hell is going on with my hearing? And I wasn't able to put two and two together. But in fact, it was because I was actually allergic to the Roxol insulation that was being used behind the
Wow.
walls. Okay, cool. Now I know, and now I can do something that's okay. I'll just go back to fiberglass or something, something that doesn't give me that issue. But yeah, it was actually
Right.
really scary. But I shouldn't have been too worried because, hey, ENTs, ear, nose, throat doctors and specialists, they're great, and it's nice
Yeah.
to actually do that if you have the wherewithal to do so. Don't put it off, especially
No.
if ears are part of your passion and profession.
Yeah.
It's really
Absolutely.
important.
Absolutely. I cannot stress that enough because I had a scare earlier this year where my body was producing a little bit more wax than typical. And on one night driving home and earlier in the year, I accidentally like pushed in the right area. And it was interesting because when I was sleeping, I was getting like minor like block clogs. Like I couldn't, like my ear wasn't really like I couldn't hear that well. And then it turns out like I just ended up getting 100% clogged wax just near the eardrum. Like it was too far in. And so I had to go to ENT. I didn't even have insurance at the time, so I was paying a very hefty amount. But I was very miserable for at least 4 days and tried other things before that. And sure enough, unfortunately, I was the most challenging case for the ENT of 2020.
Um,
And that's not that's not a badge of honor by any means. But regardless, like at least he was able to kind of hear again because I've never been 100% clogged in my left ear ever. So do not put that off, especially if this is your full time or coming to soon be full time work. You
right.
got to take care of yourself.
Yeah, that's pretty scary. And wow, you actually mentioned something that I kind of want to dig into a little bit right now, if you don't mind. But you said you weren't insured at the time, so
Yeah,
hmm. Is that something that's rectified now, or?
it's in the works. The Cover California type of process. Those things takes time.
Yeah, yeah,
So, but yeah, it's definitely important to have that underneath your belt if you can. It's best when you look at your options.
right. Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel you on that. There's definitely a few years where I was not insured, and that just, I was always worried. That just created this anxiety throughout. And then, I mean, right now I'm insured. I still live life basically as a freelance sound designer, but um, there is one client for whom I am technically a half-time employee, so that
Mm,
allows me to be covered. And really glad that I can do that while also being able to juggle, um, different jobs the way that freelancers are kind of expected to. But
right.
yeah, it is tough dealing with health and health insurance, and yeah, I'm glad that you're on track to get back and not have to worry about that in the near future.
Yeah, unfortunately, it was one of those cases where, as in, you should have had it, and that situation happens and such because that's why the insurance is there. It's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. Like that's the old adage that we say. But yes, it's especially because you never know. You really don't know, and it's best to be prepared and be covered and such. If you would insure your house or your apartment with all your gear, your ears and your health would be the same. So just encompass it all together, and it's an investment in yourself. I just see it that way.
Yeah, I gotta admit, I'm not as good when it comes to insuring my gear, even though I know there's um, I'm aware of a pretty decent number of services I can go through. Usually through things like various professional organizations. Like
Mm,
through ASCAP I can deal with music gear insurance. And I've thought about that, and I've basically decided against it. Um,
mm,
and mostly because I have a pretty good idea of what I've got, and I do have my own sort of insurance policy in place in the form of my backup system, not just for my software but also for my hardware. I do have multiple computers. I have multiple pieces of hardware, whether it be microphones and interfaces and keyboards, and
right.
I figured that does the trick there. I mean, do you deal with gear insurance in that way, or?
I typically kind of just encompass it with the house insurance policy, just as an umbrella type of thing. It was suggested by the CPA that I used to work with that it would be kind of comparable to kind of doing that rather than just getting a separate insurance to kind of oversee and itemize those type of encompassing package policies, as you will.
Oh, okay. So let's see, you rent right now, right? So this is part of your
Yes.
renter's insurance, and you don't have to worry about that in terms of taxes, right? Where you're doing in terms of how you file your taxes, you don't have a separate entity.
As far as I've been doing that, no, not necessarily. It just kind of goes along with whatever I pay, what the premiums are, and I mean, we both live in California, Southern California, so we know we have two type of natural disaster things possibly on the brinks of one being earthquakes and the second one being unfortunately fires. So it's it's kind of tricky to kind of work with those insurance companies because then if you live in a certain municipal then they don't really cover even like certain things and they do or they don't, but yeah, it's best to just kind of at least have something rather than like nothing, even if god forbid anything were to happen, right? You would probably at least get some things back rather than like nothing back at all.
Yeah, man, the dangers of California. Why do we stay here? Why?
It's not just this place. I mean, there's also Florida and Seattle
That's
and
true.
Midwest had tornadoes, so you're never gonna get away from it all, you know.
Yeah, I mean, living in Maryland, I was like right on the edge of we had to deal with hurricanes. It's like
Mhm.
okay, not as bad as say Florida or if you're in the Gulf Coast elsewhere, but it was certainly a thing that we've had to deal with. We've had to deal with the fallout from it, often in terms of flooding and whatnot. But yeah, there's always something going on in whatever place. No place is really truly perfect. But
Right.
it actually has made me think a little bit more about that because so many people, especially in our line of work, audio professionals, music composers, they talk a lot about moving out to California, moving to LA if they want to get into the film business, get into the recording business, or get into games. Um, And it's actually kind of interesting going back to GameSoundCon, how I talked to many people that were outside of America or from other places in America, East Coast, Boston, North Dakota, Michigan. Like, yeah, I want to move out to LA. Eventually I'm going to get through this and then going to go down to Southern California and see where all the action is. There's still this understanding that, yes, the action is here. Um, do you feel that? Like, it's already been more than half a year of this larger, not just national, but global reaction to the state of the world in this pandemic. But it does also feel like, yeah, SoCal is where it's at, huh? Isn't it?
Dang, I really don't know. And I guess because I haven't gone to any like social gatherings that encompass the the meetups for and conferences as such. It's I'm not really sure. I mean, I'll give you a great example. The the meetups that were happening, like the smaller meetups, were have almost all died out. And since then, they've kind of just been like two, just kind of, or if even I would have to even say like two, yeah, two have been revamped, and they're now on like Discord. And then the ones that probably were struggling to meet up in, I'm just saying like outside LA, those like Louisville, Kentucky just said that they announced like a meetup virtually for something. And then the Tech Valley Game Space in New York have been just really just been on the ball with their meetups like virtually and continuously happening. But the ones in LA, the ones where we think are happening and going on, have they have just gone, and not even some of them have even revived. Just only two, and so if you're looking for that space to that you were able to kind of get that social activity and meet up and say hello and have a couple drinks, it didn't exist with the, at least with the, I'm talking about indie game meetups, and I'm also thinking about like game audio meetups, like the ones that you may or may not have known about. They exist? Did they not exist? Was it like on the low? It wasn't really promoted, honestly. And so I'm wondering, it's not like EA is inviting us to their office either and saying like, "Hey, we're having a gathering like down there." So I don't, my perspective, my experience, I'm gonna say like, not really. I think it's just where you just kind of go where the conferences are, and that's where the social activity is happening, and then you just show up, and then you go back home, and you kind of wait to the next one. And that was my thing. But yeah, I have to say like over the past few years, it's been it's been kind of lackluster.
Mm. Yeah, it has been. Uh, I mean, there is. Yeah, I'm kind of in that same boat. I'm a little bit uncertain about where this enthusiasm for SoCal is. Just because, yeah, it feels like over the last, I mean, not just few years, but the last decade, it's always been
Mm,
up and down in terms of the energy that goes into these meetups, whether it be from individuals and small groups, or whether it be things like IGDA or SCL and stuff like that, gang.
yeah,
Um, yeah, these meetups are not really quite there. And with this year, it feels like they're sort of doubly not there. That energy isn't really manifesting in the online space the way that I expected for some of these groups. But you are seeing it from some other places that you didn't hear about before. Maybe it's like a group in Europe that's like, oh, that's cool. I'm interested in that. Or somewhere else in America, or somewhere in Asia. There's like a Singaporean group that I was like actually interested in hanging out with. That they just advertise something on Facebook. And it's like, oh, okay. It's like Asian game audio developers. That's cool. Um, but yeah, where is that energy here? And maybe it's because the energy overall was at a kind of low point over the last few years. Um,
yeah.
and it always cycles though. New people come in, and I hear things like, "Hey, IGDA's going to be doing this now for this coming calendar year, so mark your calendars." Uh, but yeah, I feel like the energy could be even better. People at GameSoundCon were talking about, yeah, here we are in Massachusetts. It's all right. I'm going to school. Blah blah blah. It's great. but I really want to be in LA. Um, and LA is not like a panacea for all of your networking, business leads, and whatnot, or even just pure socializing.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
socializing is
mean,
happening all over the world in different places. And LA is not really a central point for that.
no, it's not, and not anymore either. Showing what the pandemic has been happening, especially with like work from home. I mean, I'm hearing a lot of companies moving up to Seattle. Like Seattle sounds like it's more of a central point than LA is to me. I'm hearing a lot of talk in Montreal and Ontario, and like just up north sounds more central hub. That's where you want to get the buzz. Everybody's, kind of, I mean, they're on lockdown again right now, but the that's where before, at least the pandemic started, I was hearing about a lot of activity happening. People like Power Up Audio throwing on events and such like that. And typically on on the versus side of that, it would normally with GameSoundCon we would have like the Hexany audio, kind of happening for those
Yeah,
events
the
at
open
least
house
twice
there.
a
Yeah,
year. Yeah, but that that's it's quite it's changed quite a lot. And so what I think is, since we're on the topic of people were kind of asking the question too, like, should I move out to Los Angeles? And like I said, I just say straight up, like, no. If you can, it's very expensive if you don't have the means for such. But there's no reason to struggle to do what you want to love to do. You can definitely do what you love anywhere that you are and not struggle. And I used Jason Graves as an example. I use Jeff Broadbent as an example. He's in Oregon.
yeah.
Jason's on the East Coast. They're making it happen, and so and everyone else. There's a lot of other people who are making it happen. They're not in LA. It's a by choice thing. It's if you want to meet specific people and you think you want to be around there and you want to be like an assistant at remote control or something, then obviously, then yes, you're gonna have to make
Hang out
that
in Santa
jump. You're gonna make
Monica.
that move.
Yep.
Yeah, but if it's just to make it happen and you're thinking about freelancing, I don't recommend it.
Yeah, it's hmm. Yeah. If you can do it. But don't starve yourself to do it.
Yeah, don't starve
Which is
yourself. Don't jump on
totally
the bandwagon.
it's totally a thing that can happen because LA is freaking expensive. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, let's go on to some other things like actually going on this whole online thing because
Yeah.
people are doing more and more things online and exploring them in different ways. Now, one of the things that we are more used to than others is the whole idea of online recording. Right? I mean, you recently
Mm,
did like a remote recording session with Dynamedian, right?
yeah.
And I've dealt with them before, and it's great. Before we go any further, I want to ask: did it go well? It went great.
It did go well.
Oh,
There was one hiccup,
oh,
but that was rectified actually today. So that's fresh press for you there. they do you want me to elaborate
I mean,
or
if you want to, it's. I mean,
okay.
it's your project. I don't want to press you if you don't want to talk about it. But
No, no, no. That's fine. Shout out to Dynamedian. They did a wonderful job. And it happens, typically mistakes are made. So I wrote this kind of like stealth piece that maybe could be assimilated with like a Metal Gear. And so there's one section where it's actually a melody, so it's really important. Whereas in the violins are playing, they're supposed to play an E flat to a D twice.
mm-hmm.
And within the course of like at least 8 to 16 bars, and they didn't play it the first time, and I was going crazy because I looked at the score, I listened to the MIDI, I listened to my mix, and then I ended up paying for a video as well. So then I downloaded the video and I watched the video. And I was like, don't tell me they didn't. They did it the second time. They played it well. Don't tell me that they didn't do it. And they didn't. I was confirmed today. I was like, please. I was like, I just want to know if it's if I'm hearing wrong. And it was like, we really apologize. but they gave me an alternate mix of fixing of Hutch, and I can hear the fix, but it's good, and it would be a lot to kind of redo this entire session. But other than that, they killed it. It was great. It sounds wonderful. It's super professional. I would definitely do it again if I have the opportunity, and it was cool. I was just it's just that one little thing, and when you write something, it's like if I'm a very meticulous person, so if I've got to be on that level for them, I likewise it needs to be mutual and such. So yeah, that was it. That was it. Honestly, that's it. Other than that, flawless. Super
That's
happy.
great to hear. I had a pretty good experience with Dynamedian myself. I think it's been a while since I've used them. Like I used them what 2 years back, and I first used them I think 3 or 4 years back, and they've always been really good. I've always liked them. And it's funny because they're this larger service that actually works with a lot of different orchestras in different places. Like, okay, one time they might record with an orchestra in Spain, and then maybe
Yeah.
the next time an open date comes up, it's actually in, I don't know, it's in Macedonia or something like that. So they're an interesting service, and they're actually really good at what they do. I'm really glad that I've used them the times that I've used them. But of course, they're not the only service out there. And I kind of want to mention this because one of the more interesting things that has shown up in various music forums is Musiversal, because they
Hmm.
came out a couple weeks ago and said, hey, we are launching a subscription service for our orchestra recording. So a it's not something where you book a date and you pay for a particular set of services. Rather, you're going to have access to this service for $99 a month.
I'm in.
You're in.
I'm in. That's a no-brainer. Are you kidding me? Take your music beyond samples with unlimited recording sessions. Shout out to you, Vince.
It's interesting though. I mean, it sounds cool. I don't know. This is weird. This is different
Okay,
territory.
I
Uh,
like this. This is perfect topic for me. This is a perfect topic for me. And I think this is great because you're the experienced person to work with the orchestras and live stuff and all that great things. And I'm just now coming into the world of having a bigger piece of orchestra. I usually have worked with like string quartets and ensembles to kind of layer in with the hybrid pieces. But here's my thing, if I may.
mhm.
I always vacillate a ton. Like, I'll give you a perfect example. It's in my inbox, it's unread. It says 8 DO Productions, 6 ultra deep orchestral instruments for $48. It's typically $248. But you're telling me I get 5 days for free through Musiversal and then 99 per month for unlimited recording sessions. I don't have to massage samples anymore. I can just work with audio. Are you kidding me?
Oh
I'm super
man.
excited.
I'm looking at their latest tweet, which was from a couple days ago. It said, there are 25 spots left in our studio subscription plan. When we hit 100 subscribers, we'll open up a waiting list, and the new price will be $199 per month. So,
Nope.
so yes,
I'll,
sign up now. Like, I, I don't know. I don't know. I mean,
okay.
part
What are
of
your? Let's hear it. I'm curious.
well, well, quite honestly, a lot of it is because I read stuff about how things have gone with this company in a previous iteration. So, in other words, you can trace back Musiversal to this company that came out a couple years back that was, I think it was literally called the $99 Orchestra. And
Yes.
the idea was that okay, $99 gets you a 30-minute or 1 hour session with an orchestra, something like that. And I think that there were some issues with that. I don't know where, I don't think all the issues resided totally in their camp, but I do think it was probably a both sides thing. When you make these big claims and you throw this out to people that are both educated as well as uneducated, then a lot of problems can sort of stem from that. Hey, you talk to a music composer that has never worked with an orchestra before, and you say, hey, if you give us $99, we'll record your stuff with an orchestra. But they don't really quite understand the full ramifications of that. Wait a minute, how exactly do I write out the score? How exactly is the communication working online? What should I actually be prepared for? There's a lot of assumptions that are being made there that were not really expounded on when people on both sides came to this agreement, which I think created a lot of problems and tension. And so, yeah, there was definitely some bad blood, some bad reputations that were established there early on. And they've since massaged their service, and their service has existed now for a couple of years. So,
Mm.
okay, that's cool. That's definitely a testament to them trying to fix up things and actually trying to create, honestly, a more competitive product in a world of competitive products like Dynamedian. Dynamedian is a very good service provider when it comes to orchestra recording.
Right.
And now these guys, Musiversal, they're trying to go further with this $99 a month subscription plan. Um, I mean, I think it sounds cool. I'll be totally honest. I really do think it sounds cool. And there's a part of me
So
thinking about this as, okay, I know people that spend $1,000 a year in the in the pursuit of new tech, in the pursuit of making things easier for themselves or seeking out new sounds for their orchestral kit. Um, yeah, that could actually totally fit into my budget as a working composer. Um,
right.
but it's also a subscription. God damn it, I hate subscriptions. I really do. But there is something to this, Okay, this is a subscription that's not just for a piece of software. This is for access to real flesh and blood people. And that
Right.
makes things again, that flips me back to the side of being really, really interested in this. So,
S- I like this conversation a lot because I'm hearing what you're talking about, and I'm so glad that you're able to give the etymology on Musiversal as well, because it's really good for, especially like us and the listeners, to have that background. A lot of if it seems that if the rebrand has happened and people learn from that mistake, that it could be happening more. Along with that, I always preach about doing homework to newcomers and such, and especially this year, since I've been doing a lot of talks to get a lot of advice. I say do your homework, and this sounds like a case of just doing more homework. And I'm looking at the FAQ here along with you, and I'm also it's quite robust. It's very robust in terms of they really thought about a lot of questions. It's not just 5 questions here. I think I'm well into 20 questions and at least more for anything and everything maybe that may put people on the fence. Along with that, why not ask more questions before hopping in and paying the $100 and seeing, exactly where you fit within their services and how, and building a relationship possibly, right? Like if you invest obviously within them, they will most likely invest in you in return with trying to accommodate what your needs are as a client, and if the service is done well in that format. And that's what I believe. And so I think that, like you were saying, if you're spending $1,000 a year and you're putting a lot of time into the new tech and getting that massage and doing all this other stuff. But if you're someone like me who works better with like live players, and then I pay 100 a month and I don't know how many sessions I can possibly get. But if you can say you're a working composer, you're writing different cues, you're demoing a lot, that's gonna kind of get you there a little bit faster. And then maybe you can graduate. Like if you get that for the entry part, but you can't get the Dynamedian, then you can graduate off bigger budgets for Dynamedian down the line. And so there's a different couple ways you can kind of juggle your options, but but not everybody has the financial means and such. So maybe it's just a good opening for folks to kind of like hop in. And like I said, for someone like me, whereas and I'm like, yeah, I know it's 248. I know it's $48 and it's $200 off. It's like, but do I write a lot of that music? But I was like, well, I could be more inclined because I want to work with live players to kind of get that subscription for that, and just for a month, right? You can always cancel the subscription. You do it for a month. You got like at least 2 or 3 pieces recorded by live musicians. no brainer again from the sample library stuff that you would have to put more time in and possibly get mixed and do all this other stuff. And I just think that it's good to just do your homework and weigh options. And then maybe we can, I mean, I'm happy to be a guinea pig in this case to kind of see and tell our listeners how it kind of turned out and so on and so forth. Like I really believe in that.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff here. This is a really rich place to just dive into if you want to dive into it. You know, I mean, I've been kind of on the fence here, and actually hearing you talk about it has made me think, okay, maybe I should actually dive into it as well. I do think 5 days free is, that's not really enough time, honestly, when it comes to the turnaround of stuff as well. Like,
Mm,
how long does it take to actually prepare and record and mix and deliver? It takes a while, actually. Like, you know, I don't know how it was for you with Dynamedian, but usually it takes maybe a couple of days actually to sort of get things through, especially if you want it um, decently mixed. I'm looking through the FAQ, and it seems like they will deliver things in a ready to use fashion, as opposed to just dumping things in the form of a Pro Tools session in an FTP somewhere. So, um, but yeah, I'm really glad that they are so upfront about this. They have a really great, extensive fact section, lots of questions that are basically mirror pretty much every question that I've had. But it's just a matter of, do I want to dive in? Maybe I will dive in because I am interested in seeing and hearing how well this could fit into my workflow. All this stuff that they provide. I'm interested in these musicians. I'm I'm really glad that actually one of the very first questions that they have there is, how do you pay your musicians if the service is $99 a month? And they say right
right.
up front, we do want to give our musicians a stable job. And I really, I think that's great. That's a really great answer, and I really respect that answer. And they put a real number there. It's like, okay, wow, if they are really actually interested in giving these people reasonable part-time salaries, that's cool. I'm all for that, definitely. So yeah, I'm probably gonna think about this a little bit more. But wow, it's cool, isn't it? This is a real weird world we're living in now.
Yeah. It is, but there's little nuggets and things like this that just put more of a smile on my face because I'm thinking over here like, man, I've got to put like my own mini orchestra together. And it's like, okay, well, I know this violinist and I know this cellist, but I'm still looking for a trumpet player because I don't want to just kind of hire anybody. I mean, people are recommended to such, but I personally like to work with people that I like and that I can like talk to, even though someone else thinks they're great. Maybe the price isn't right, or maybe we just don't get along, and that's going to come through in the music. That's why I really kind of value that such. And so kind of taking off a little bit off of that in my mind, just dealing with people that they know that they are working with those type of relationships and stuff. It's like, look, I'm just paying for this. I'll give you all the materials and things that you need, and that's less work on my end makes me a little bit happier too, because I don't want to. I would like to build my own orchestra with folks, but that's a lot of work. It's a lot of
Yeah,
work.
yeah, it's a lot of work. It definitely takes some time, but it's also fun to do that as well. For as much as this provides like a really, this could be a really fantastic service. I think the jury's still out because this is really the very beginning of this service. But I will say that forming those relationships and connecting with people and knowing that, oh, okay, you know what, I'm gonna just sort of shoot an email over to Jeff and Michaela for some violin duty because I know that they're going to have fun with this piece. And going through that process that allowed you to make that decision there actually is really fun. Getting to know these people, developing that network. Uh, yeah, it does take a lot of work and a lot of just like pure muscle in order to move through this industry and know the people who are cool, who are really worth hanging out with and working with. But that's also really fun too, and yeah, I encourage people to actually go on that process. It's such a cool process.
Right. Very, very true. Now, I'm curious, is there a mixing service that that you happen to know that's almost does the same thing? Whereas in they'll take what you have here, maybe Musiversal doesn't do that for you, and then you're like, oh dang, I don't really have like in our. I'm not sure about you, but a lot of people don't promote themselves in game audio as like I'm a mixing editor. I mean, we have John Rod,
Mm-hmm.
as far as I know, and then there's
He's
like
good.
a couple others. But
Yeah,
yeah, any thoughts?
I mean, I've worked with a couple people, like I mean, on Sky for the mixing for the orchestra tracks. Steve Kempster, who's another SoCal person, he actually worked with me on that, and he's great. But I've done a lot of my own mixing, and I do tend to sort of mix as I go along while working on things.
Hmm.
Mixing is kind of fun, except when it's not. Um,
Yes.
yeah, looking through this FAQ for Musiversal, it says that okay, they will give us. I imagine it's going to be like section stems. Um, no later than 24 hours after your session. Okay, that's pretty cool. Um, yeah, I mean that could be cool. Uh, I, I don't know. I'm actually thinking about the different types of projects that I do where I would mix orchestra because it's really rare that I do something that is a 100% pure orchestra cue. It's always going to be something like, okay, I've got orchestra and then I've got my own stuff in the box, and some of it is going to be ostensibly orchestra. Like, oh, I'm playing my own particular ethnic flute solo on my iwi or something. Or maybe I'm doing something that is actually synth to go along with the orchestra. And
Yeah.
that's fun. And if I'd say most of the time I actually have some fun mixing it myself.
Okay.
Um, there are a lot of people that are out there doing mixing, but it's a different world, honestly. I actually haven't really dived into that world myself.
I want to point out one thing that is in the FAQ, which is do I need any software to join the sessions? And there's so this is a really big thing. I didn't get to join my session for Dynamedian. I was told like sometimes they offer it, and as you know, like they're hopping around different places to work with different orchestras. So
Yeah,
sometimes it's possible, sometimes it's not. But if you're able to be in your own session, that gives you a lot of control.
yeah,
So that really kind of gives me a lot of peace of mind because then I can direct and collaborate with the musicians to say, hey, maybe a little bit, less vibrato here, a little, and can I have a little bit more on this measure there? That really can go a long way, and that way you can get the result that you're really looking for.
yeah. I think that's a really good thing. When I was working with Dynamedian, we were lucky in that we had Source Connect available, so I could just join in and listen alongside. And it was actually pretty good. It was a good enough uh, quality on that connection that I could actually just quickly record 2 tracks straight from that web stream. And then later on, I just threw that into Fmod as a placeholder.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's amazing.
it is kind of amazing. We live in an amazing time these days.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I agree. Having that connection is really important. Um, and we're actually coming up on the end of this game audio hour. It's already, oh
Wow,
no, it's already
that
an hour? And we
that
still haven't
flew.
done all the things that we need to do, like talk about other things that we're doing, other games we're playing, or other songs we're listening to. Let's do it really quick. Chase, what are you playing? What are you listening to?
What am I playing? I'm not actually playing anything currently. I was gonna pick up and re-pick up Exit on PSP. It's a really
Oh,
good
Exit.
puzzle
Exit's
game.
great.
Yes, by Taito. Yes, they are. So I got pretty far. I off and on it a bit. Anything I'm listening to? There was some. Oh, I was listening to Selena Albright's newest single called "Holding On." It just came out last Friday. It was on my dad's smooth jazz cafe podcast, and so I really like that track. So that's what I'm listening to right now. It's really good.
Cool. Yeah. Let's see. For me, I've been really doing some VR again, so checking out all that stuff. but actually going a lot to the golden oldies, the oldies of VR, things like a Beat Saber, huh?
Ooh.
Um, but I mean, it's good for it's kind of a modern classic, honestly. It is really good at what it does. Beat Saber is excellent,
Mm.
and especially since they added the multiplayer option. So I'm getting my wife
Ooh.
in on that action. Beat Saber is pretty darn fun.
I might have to pick that up, and hopefully we and I can play.
Hey, that'd be cool. I don't really have that much of a friends list on. Wait a minute, are
Same
you on
here.
Oculus or?
I got Oculus. I got PSVR.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm on Oculus, so yeah, if you want to join the friends list, let's do it.
Okay.
Cool. Let's do that
Hook up
after
my
the
Oculus for the
show,
first time.
which is ending right now, unfortunately. Yeah, because it's already been more than an hour. But thank you for hanging out with us during this game audio hour. Make sure to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. We try to do updates well in advance of when these shows actually happen. I know the last few weeks we've had to mostly post about how, oh, we gotta put it off another week. Sometimes it's for good reasons, like GameSoundCon is happening, and sometimes it's for actually us having work is actually a pretty good reason, right? Yeah, it's
Absolutely.
when you can get
Yeah.
the work, it's good. So you know, follow us on Twitter. We will tell you about the next show coming up over there. And until that time, later. Bye.
Bye.